Guys, I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. You'll return the subscriber. As always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Now, you guys know we've been studying, going over this Tyre Nichols case. And we're 3 weeks into this thing, and a lot of stuff has been coming out. But like, I was really thinking about the news of what they said yesterday when Field Lieutenant Dwayne Smith took the stand. And by no means, I don't have a dog in this fight. But I mean, the way this thing went down could have been preventable. Not just for Tyre Nichols, but for other people that I will show you today that a lot of people don't know. The Scorpion team been at this stuff for a while. Now, since its inception, these people have supposed to be, you know, as a unit, trying to get guns and stolen vehicles and all this other stuff off the street, right? They got this stop and frisk thing where, you know, they jump out on people and do all this other crazy stuff. And now we're where we are, right? Now, this is Memphis. You cannot tell me that CJ Davis, now I ain't talked about her in a while, CJ Davis and Field Lieutenant Dwayne Smith and everybody in between did not know about this stuff. And I'll prove it that they knew that the Scorpion team was doing some crazy stuff. I don't know if she addressed it herself with them, which I think she didn't. I think she just passed it down, word down, and it went down, went down, went down, and then it got to wherever it had to go. But I think it fell on deaf ears because the craziness they was doing in the street didn't stop. Today, I'm gonna show you a video where they're victims of the Scorpion team. And this was last year when the Tyre Nichols thing first broke out. And people tell their story about how wild the Scorpion team was. And it gives a little history of CJ Davis and her other organized police units in other places where she was at, namely Raleigh and Atlanta. And it talks a little bit about her. I don't understand how she got that job in Memphis with the resume that she has. Seriously. And this right here was a recipe for disaster. Now, I don't know CJ Davis. I don't know Field Lieutenant Dwayne Smith. But I do know a lot of the stuff could have been preventable if they addressed it like the problem that it was. Tyre should still be here. The other people I'm about to show you in a video coming up shouldn't have been victimized. I want you guys to take a look at this video because we have a Tyre Nichols court update today, trial going on. I'll have that as my last video later on tonight when all the information comes out. But I want you to take a look at this. And they was doing some dirty stuff out there. Running up on people without no lights on, which I think they did to Tyre Nichols. Ski mask on. Who gonna stop for somebody in an unmarked car zooming up on them with a ski mask? You know, we're not even gonna get into it. I don't want to tell you the video. Take a look at this. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Please leave a comment and tell me if you think that they knew more than they did, especially with these lawsuits flying around. And before we go into this video, I'm going to say one more thing about Field Lieutenant Dwayne Smith. I think he's part of the problem. Creating a stressful environment that's already stressful. Pushing them to the limit. Arrest people, do this, do that. You already got people that are already mentally unstable, and then you're putting the squeeze on them to put the squeeze on others, and this type of stuff happens. Take a look.
In 2021, when CJ Davis became the first black female police chief in Memphis, she gave the community the impression that she would have a tougher response to police misconduct. But mere months later, she adopted an approach of, quote, being tough on tough people. When she announced the creation of the Scorpion Unit, a nefarious acronym for street crimes operation to restore peace in our neighborhoods. At the direction of Davis, some 40 officers that comprise this unit employed tactics where they treat petty, low-level offenses with high-level aggression. Maurice Chalmers Stokes, a 19-year-old from Memphis, recently told his story to a local reporter about a time when he was followed by unmarked cars driven by men wearing ski masks. He says, they hopped out and bum rushed me. They were like, let me check your backpack, and don't try to run, Maurice recalled. He said out of fear he ran for his life, and that he initially had no idea he was being chased by cops because of the unmarked cars that they were driving. He said, when an officer grabbed me by my backpack, he pushed me up against the gate and cut my head up. He says when one of them threw me over, he acted like he was going to punch me. Maurice said he was never told why the police were chasing him in the first place, and that when he complained about his head injury, he was ignored, despite the police report saying he refused medical attention. 3 of those officers that attacked Maurice were involved in the beating of Tyree Nichols. Other units in Memphis, like the MGU, Multi-Gang Unit, or OCU, Organized Crime Unit, have a similar history of violence. We spoke to Martavius Banks, a man who was shot 14 times by one of those specialized units during yet another traffic stop.
Well, they had said I ran my tag and it came back that I ain't have insurance. But actually they knew me by my face, because really we were going like past each other. He was at a stop sign, I was at one at a four-way. You know, he probably went first, so he was taking so long to go, so I went on and went. I already know what was going on, what he was on. So he busted a U-turn and got behind me. First I ran in the car, and then when I couldn't get away in the car no more, I hopped out on feet. And as I was running in the house, they would shoot me up the whole time. They was running in the house, they never stopped. Even when I was on the ground, they kept shooting. Even though I was up inside the house.
And you got shot 14 times.
14 times.
They shot you with an AR-15.
Yeah, I can show you the wound.
Can we see some of that?
Yeah. Take this shirt off, make a bill. Yeah.
That's what you left with.
I had a trait in my throat, couldn't even talk at the time. You know, had all that. Bullet still in my back.
Yeah, right here.
There's a bullet. That's a bullet.
Yeah, bullet still in the back.
All right here. Barely got an arm left, but it's there. You know, got hit all up in there. One time right here. That's why I wore these shorts, so I can, you know, show y'all this right here. Got hit all up in there. All in my leg.
Were any police officers ever charged for what they did?
They still out working right now. We can be in the grocery store shopping and bump head with them, you know.
Martavius Banks received a $200,000 settlement after an investigation found that the officer who shot him turned off his body camera before firing his weapon. The creation of the Scorpion Unit didn't come to CJ Davis on a whim. In fact, in Atlanta, where Davis began her police career, she was in charge of at least 11 similar special units, including one called Red Dog, which stood for Run Every Drug Dealer Out of Georgia. When Red Dog was founded in the 80s, it didn't take long for it to collect numerous complaints of excessive force and police brutality against it. As the operations of Red Dog continued, the unit became widely despised by the residents of Atlanta. The final straw for Red Dog was when officers violently raided a popular gay bar in 2009. Those inside during the raid were beaten and forced to lay on the ground for more than an hour, while officers swore and used racist and homophobic slurs towards them. The raid prompted protests and culminated in a federal lawsuit where the city of Atlanta had to pay more than $1 million to plaintiffs. Davis oversaw this unit for 2 years before she was fired from the Atlanta Police Department after failing to investigate the husband of a fellow officer who was accused of sexually exploiting underage girls. The husband of this fellow officer would later be indicted by a grand jury after he pled to 1 count of child pornography. The extreme violence of specialized crime units isn't unique to Memphis. Units like these exist across the country. Many are connected by their aggressive tactics, and some share a history of scandal. In Baltimore, the Gun Trace Task Force became known for its unchecked violence and corruption, and would eventually see 8 of its 9 officers indicted on charges ranging from racketeering and robbery to extortion and overtime fraud. It's said that members of this task force pocketed hundreds of thousands of dollars while searching cars and homes in Baltimore. The police would allegedly drive fast at groups of people and quickly slam on the brakes, hoping to scare them and see who would take off running, and therefore give pretense for a chase and search. This allegedly happened 10 to 20 times on slow nights and more than 50 on busier nights. The officers also allegedly used illegal GPS trackers to chase down targets for robbery. And during the 2015 uprising over the police killing of Freddie Gray, one officer allegedly stopped the looting at a pharmacy, only to take the stolen drugs himself, give them to a drug dealer, and split the proceeds. Then there's DC's Gun Recovery Unit, a 9-member team which residents of the nation's capital call the Jump Out Boys. A dubious tactic employed by GRU is jumping out on groups of people and fishing for statistics, the veteran wrote. Members of GRU would drive to an area where multiple people were hanging out, jump out of the truck, and force everyone present to submit to stop and frisk without any articulable reason for being stopped and frisked other than their mere presence at the scene. It's also believed that higher-ups in the department tried to manipulate the results in order to avoid accusations of racial bias. It would even go so far as to make stops in parts of DC with white residents to, quote, balance the number of pedestrian stops against black individuals in their district. These are just a few instances that reflect a much larger pattern of militarization of police throughout the U.S. The structural realities of police terror in the United States were fully on display in the murder of Tyree Nichols, exactly why his death has once again elicited calls for the end of the Special Forces-style police units across the country.